Hey folks, this is Strong Games and welcome to Total War Warhammer 3. Today we're going to do a getting started guide for Morathi and the Cult of Pleasure. This is a Dark Elf faction, and so Morathi is
I
actually
am the first
quite a
sorceress.
good lord. Um, we'll just kind of go through some of the faction effects here to start with,
The Sunbreaker.
and start with that. So one of the big things that Morathi kind of brings to the table is that she has this Slanesh corruption. So basically, the higher Slanesh corruption is, the kind of more money or more income you'll get from your slaves. You can also recruit Slanesh demonettes, and the demonettes are really good in the early game. They're quite strong units, and they have magical attacks. They pierce armor. They're fast. They're just a really good unit early on. Um, Kind of reduced construction costs for sorcery buildings, and kind of spreads all of your characters spread Slanesh corruption, and your hero actions actually cost less as well. Now, in terms of the climate, you're looking at temperate, island, chaotic wasteland, and frozen. And so, one thing just to look at the map here, you'll see a lot of frozen climate in the area. If you go further south, this turns into jungle areas. So Morathi off the bat is going to kind of want to expand to the north as well as towards our kind of horseshoe in the middle here, Ulthuan. So you you want to kind of work those directions off the bat. Now, as a very initial goal for Morathi, if you look at this region, Titan Peaks has 4 settlements in it. So one of the goals right off the bat is actually to secure this area as quickly as possible, and that means beating the crap out
Definitely
of
not.
these guys.
I
Now,
watch from the shadows.
we go here first, get a close victory.
Revenge
There
awaits.
are some really good units in Morathi's initial army, and we're going to
New
take some
toys.
slaves to start with
Delight.
because we want to start building that up. But
I am
Morathi's initial
Morathi.
army here has some Daemonettes, really good early, in the early game, and you have some Shades as well. Shades are also an extremely strong unit. Um, just keep that in mind. Now, the nice part is that if you go
Corruption
check
thrives.
your building browser, the ancient city of Quintex starts at level 2, which means actually you can get Shades almost immediately. So by turn 3, you could actually be starting to get Shades. Shades are a really good unit for the Dark Elves. Now, one of the things that we want to kind of focus
What?
on at the beginning of this campaign
For the
is kind of leveling
trophy.
Morathi up, and this faction here is pretty weak. Now, I'm going to auto-resolve this. You shouldn't do that because you can see that I'm going to lose the Demonettes. You should fight it manually or take your time.
To the
I'm going to
vengeful
do it just
slaughter.
for the sake of this kind of getting started guide. So now here we're going to loot
What
and
was
occupy
theirs
this,
is mine.
and we've kind of got
All is
ourselves set
possible.
up in the first settlement here. So I'm going to grab, well, you can take some dark shards, but the problem is you've got this building here actually. So I'm not going
Morathi.
to train anything because I actually want to work my way towards the either get this master, so you either upgrade this building right away and you recruit a master, and then you destroy this, or you can just destroy this on your first turn. So
High
I'm gonna get rid of
sorceress
it
of
right away,
war.
and you can see I'm gonna run pretty thin, but I'm gonna train some dread spears here because you can pretty much always train those guys. So just get a
Droopy
few of
queen.
them going. Couple of other things to be aware of with the Dark Elves is their rights. So there are a couple of really important items for Morathi's faction here. Morathi has reduced cooldown for the sacrifice to Hikari, meaning you can like add additional winds of magic and like boost your sorceresses really quite well. Um, Makes it also cost quite a bit less than it normally does. So you can see this is actually only worth 400, and all these other ones cost 800 slaves. So that's something to keep in mind. Now there are a few things here we want to make sure that we unlock these early on because this can be really important to have available. But we'll kind of unlock the sacrifice to Cain just by fighting a few battles. We've actually almost done it, slaving sets of captives after a battle. Um, this one here, we actually have to perform an action with a sorceress, and we don't have a sorceress, and we won't for a while. So That's something we'll have to remember to do later. This one, demand highborn hostages is a commandment. We can't do that because we don't own the whole province. But when we do, we are going to want to secure that. One thing that I often do with, or often try to do with Dark Elves, is get a Black Arc really quite early on. With Morathi's faction, I tend not to worry about it too much, and there's a very kind of specific reason for that. Off the bat, the High Elves in Ulthuan, they really don't like you. They are unhappy with your existence. And if you take a look through your attitudes here, you actually haven't met any of them yet, but you will relatively early on, and they will not be very pleased with your existence. Now, interestingly, you actually have some non-aggression pacts with a couple of factions,
What little
and
corner of
you might be able to get some trade agreements or things like that early on. So you can try this, get them to balance the offer. They want a decent amount of money, so I'm gonna not worry about that. But you also have a treaty with uh, Hexoatl, which is just down to the south here a little bit. So we'll go over this direction. They're just down in this area here. Now, there are a few factions to be aware of in
Phoenix?
this area, and we'll just give Morathi here a few points to get these guys upgraded, and then I'm going to advance the turn while we talk about that. Oh, gotta do this too. Morathi, because you can get shades so early on, often I'll go here first and then work my way through these. I pretty much always get this one first. We want to grow this province relatively quickly because it is got 4 settlements in it. It can be a really strong province for us, and we're going to be spending a lot of time in this area off the beginning of this campaign, just fending off the High Elves and kind of solidifying our forces, building up our main settlement to start with. So with that, we don't necessarily want to repair any of this yet, so we're just going to advance a turn. Now, lots of factions in this area to be aware of, but the thing is, most of them are not particularly dangerous. The faction you start at war with, the Sildar Tor, is they're very weak. You tend to smash your way through them fairly quickly. Um, Typically, I will take the Petrified Forest and then come down this direction, but because I auto-resolved that battle and took a Pyrrhic victory, I'm going to have to do a little bit more training. If you fight those first 2 battles manually, I think you'll do significantly better. You might be able to get down here on like turn 2, turn 3 even, and do some work down there. Now here we've actually unlocked the ability to build another building. So you could go this way and start adding some additional money. I almost never do that. I'll either go here to get shades right away, or you can come over in this direction and get the daemonettes. Now this is kind of an interesting strategy that I've tried a few times. This is a building you can go for, gives you a little bit of control, a little bit of corruption, and then you build it again. So in 3 turns you'll be able to recruit these daemonettes. They're really quite strong, especially in the early game because they're fast, they're armor piercing. They just don't have a lot of armor, so if you fight like heavy missile units, they can get kind of shredded by them. I am going to kind of play this a little more safe here, and I'm going to take the shades because I want to get things set up in this province, and I want to make sure that Morathi's initial army is getting, you know, what it needs to be successful, and what she needs is just a good number of units that can kind of shoot from a little ways away, at least until she gets leveled up. So once she gets leveled up a little bit higher, she's a really strong caster. So um, that's what you're going to want to do in the early game. Now for factions in the area, there's a Skagi faction right here. They tend not to bother you too much. I've almost never gotten attacked by them in the early game. Hexoatl's down here. They have a non-aggression pact with you, but that doesn't necessarily mean they will leave you alone. There are some Skaven factions over in this direction. Just don't get caught off guard by them because they are there. And there is a Slaanesh faction right here. This Slaanesh faction is really quite strong, actually. So
I watch for the shadows.
be very aware of that as you go. So I'm gonna build the Shades building for in Quintex there, and that's gonna be kind of my initial setup. Now let's go through the victory conditions for Morathi, because Morathi has just such a weird victory condition for her short campaign, because she wants to destroy another Dark Elf faction, which is way up here to the north. And the thing is that this Harganeth faction and Crone Hellebron, they typically like kind of take this area and then they head this way. So they start here and they work their way that way, and you're like all the way down here. So you've got a ways to go up in this direction. And even up around this area too is Malekith, um, which is, you know, lore-wise Morathi's son. So it's gonna be another here, or another like Dark Elf faction up this direction. Um, as you go that way, you're going to fight a lot of different um, groups, but there are a lot of Dark Elves just in the beginning. Like, you fight Dark Elves there, you fight Dark Elves here. There's, like I said, Skaven factions over in this direction, and then the High Elves over here. What I tend to try to do is kind of secure my initial province. Usually I'll come down here, and I'll take just this settlement and potentially Iron Spike. I don't worry too much about the Skaven, because if you're really strong, they tend to leave you alone, especially because they're kind of a minor faction. And then I just focus on like holding the elves off as I work my way up. I don't tend to try to come over here at the beginning too quickly, but eventually you will want to go that way, because your long campaign victory is actually tied to basically wiping out all of these high elf factions. Now the weird thing about this, so like Avalorn, and this is Tyrion's faction down here. There's most of these factions are kind of on the Ulthuan Horseshoe. But if you go to Nagaroth, Nagaroth is up in this direction, so again, you're going to work your way up here, that's good. These other two factions are just, like, they are so far away from you. They are the complete opposite direction. Like, Teclis is down here, and we start over there. So the long campaign victory for Morathi, you just hope somebody else kills Teclis, and even the Knights of Caledor, they're way over here. So in terms of a long campaign victory for Morathi, you are in for a long campaign, unless somebody kills the Knights of Caledor and the Order of the Lore Masters. So that is something just to be very aware of in this. You can spend a long time doing a Morathi campaign just because the victory conditions are a little bit odd. Now, in terms of the corruption, just don't forget that you do have the Slaanesh corruption, and it gives you additional slave capacity too. So not only does it give you additional income, it gives you additional slave capacity, it gives you additional slaves every turn, you generate a few every turn, which is good. And yeah, this is kind of a beginning guide to Morathi's faction. I don't really think I've got too much more for this. If you like the content, feel free to leave a comment, like the video, and subscribe to the channel for more in the future. Thanks for watching.